You have been to plenty of these panels over this weekend, so you know that I have my little thing to read, and this is the last time you'll have to hear it. But there's a lot of important information, so I'll go ahead and read it. I am Jessica Pride. Jessica West is at the other end. And welcome to Ask Me Almost Anything, Romance Author Edition. The festival organizers thank Sarah C. Cohen and TCI Wealth Advisors Incorporated for sponsoring this location, and the Friends of the Festival, Vicarage Charitable Trust, H. Newton Williams and Connie Crow, Dr. David and Marcia Davenport, Alice and Bill Rowe, and Women's Health and Integrative Medical Center for sponsoring the upcoming discussion. Wow, that's a lot of folks who sponsored this. Thank you to all of them. The panel will end in about 1 hour. Make sure to stop by the book sales area and author signing outside, I believe. And book sales at the festival help support the cost of the festival and the local literacy programs it funds. You can help keep this event free and open to everyone by becoming a friend of the festival or a sponsor of the festival. As you see, if you sponsor, you get a nice little call out at the beginning of the panel. Please stop by the Friends booth or visit the website TucsonFestivalofBooks.org to find out more. And as we begin, please silence your phones, but feel free to keep them out to take photos. Please no flash photography. I don't know why your flash would go off in this room. It is very bright. But, you know, we are all people who can get very distracted by bright things. So, with that, I would like to go ahead and start. And I am going to announce everyone who is here, but you will not be getting introductions because hopefully you know who everyone is by now. If you've been to at least one panel, you have seen and heard people's introductions, but that would take the entire hour. So let's just go ahead and go through. I'm going to read what's listed so that I don't miss anybody, but it's not in order of how they're set up, so they're going to wave when I call their name. We have Alicia Thompson, Dominic, Segura, Rachel Runya Katz, Anita Kelly, Emily Michel, Jodie Slaughter, Stacey Cochran, Beverly Jenkins, Helena Greer, Liana de la Rosa, Diana Quincy, Vanessa Lyon, and Lydia San Andres. Thank you all for joining us for this very experimental panel. It's very different from what I think most of us are used to, and we're going to hope that everyone on this side of the room and that side of the room has as much patience with Jess and I as possible. We have some questions that we gathered from you all via the QR code and link that we had posted up at all of the previous panels. So we're going to start with some of those, and then probably about half an hour through, not instead of 45 minutes, we'll open the floor for questions from you all out there. If we asked your question already and you're like, darn it, now I don't have anything to say, you can come up with something. But we have a lot of questions in the previously submitted one that are for everyone. So basically, all of the authors will get the chance to answer a lot of the questions. We have a couple that are directed specifically for a couple of authors. But authors, Jess and I will come to you with a microphone. If you hear a question and you're like, I have to answer that. And if you really don't want to, we might come to you anyway.
Hey Jess, do you want to take the red tables and I'll take the non-red tables?
That's perfect.
Sounds like the middle to me.
Oh my gosh, I have like a duet in the room, it's great.
It's the Jesses. We have our own show.
Okay, so why don't you read the first question that you would like?
This is labeled as which author is your question for, and it literally just says, everybody. The question is, what scene from one of your books would make you deeply uncomfortable if your parents read it?
Well, my parents have read it and told me that it's too spicy for them, but it's the vibrator scene in Raiders of the Lost Heart. If you have read it, you'll know that Cora Mejia is on an archaeological dig and she brings her vibrator with her, and after a lot of tension with Ford, she goes to use it and it's broken, so she has to go find him to get batteries. You know. My mom thought it was a bit too much, but I say not enough.
I have a book called White Whiskey Bargain. It is about modern day rival moonshiners in Appalachian, Kentucky. And it's probably the most famous scene in any of my books, where the hero goes down on the heroine on the hood of a car in the rain. It's good. I haven't thought of anything as good since, but it's real good.
Just for a different thing, but my parents have read my books, and I'm glad my mom didn't comment on this. I have one scene where the heroine talks about how awful it is to try to talk to her white mother about her experience in white Jewish spaces, and my mom just did not say anything about it, which I've been thankful for.
Everybody else is totally chill with your parents reading that?
Well, we're not chill, it just happened. I think I'm gonna say this out loud, but there's one line that I always come back to is like maybe one of the filthiest things I've ever written, but in Love and Other Disasters, there's one moment where London wonders if Dahlia has been this wet for them all day, and my mom has read that line.
Anybody else?
Well, all the sex scenes. I think we can all say that.
All the sex scenes. Except Miss Bev, she doesn't care.
My mom read all my stuff. I told folks this morning that one of my aunts said she'd never eat on my dinner table again. But other than that, you know, my dad corrected my grammar. So, you know, it's all good.
All right, sometimes the best sex is makeup sex, and in Jordan version 3.2, there's a wonderful scene that I had a lot of feedback from some great romance authors who gave me feedback on it and said, well, the heroine, Aaliyah, needs to come back to Jordan on the beach, and how they make love is pretty steamy. I'll just leave it at that.
Excellent. Next question.
Next question.
All right, another one for everyone. Do you ever dislike any of the characters you write, and if so, how do you manage that? Do you ever just deeply dislike someone you wrote by accident?
For the villain, you write the villain, and I try to make him as unlikable as possible. And in this case, it's the housekeeper and the butler who don't really accept the new owner, the Arab American woman who has inherited this English castle, because they don't think she's worthy of it.
Yeah, I think the characters that I dislike the most are definitely born out of people that I've met in my life.
Anyone else?
Don't be shy.
You can say that you hate your character. It's all right. We understand.
This is a different take on this, but I think I just love really mean women, and so all of the women at Kerrigan's are kind of mean. And I like it. Maybe Mrs. Matthews is nice, but she's not a main character. Like any woman I'm giving like a love story to is like kind of a prickly bitch. And so sometimes readers are like, why are none of these, like I will never write a Grumpy Sunshine book because I don't care about sunshine characters. And so I absolutely adore a lot of characters that other people find difficult to like.
We love those characters though, so keep writing them.
I want a grumpy. That'd be great. Two grumps falling in love. God, that's me. Next question again for everybody. How do you find the motivation to finish a story I can never seem to get to the finish line?
Aside from money
If you don't get to the finish line,
and
you'll
that
get paid.
contract, staring down the barrel of that contract. Sometimes you truly just have to do it out of like pure spite for the story that you started, and you're like, I mean, nothing but pure spite is gonna keep me going to finish this, because I'll be furious if I don't, and that's it.
I got bills.
You're under contract, you wanna get paid. It's a job, you gotta finish it.
If you're not under, if you're not under contract, for me, it's like I force myself, I sprint, so I like set a timer and then just write for 20 minutes, and I force myself for a while, and then usually, if I get past a certain like point towards the end, I kind of like feverishly write the last 3 chapters in like a day, because it's like, it's so close you can taste it, and I just kind of like push through, you know.
Couple of great stories here. So Eddie and Sunny, the ending, when I got to it, there were 3 different endings I could foresee at the end of the novel, and there's a wonderful memory I have about sitting with my wife in Key West outside of Dante's bar right on the Key West Marina, and we were talking philosophically how a love story should end and what are the best ways to end that. And so that ending was born out of that conversation, which was pretty amazing. And then with the Jordan novel, which took forever to write, it was really my daughter. She kept asking me, how does the novel end? Because it has this wonderful series of twists at the end of the novel. And the concept that it's set up with provokes big questions. And she kept asking me when I would tell her bedtime stories. After I got done with the bedtime story, she'd be like, okay, so how does the Jordan novel end? How does the Jordan novel end? And so that really kept me going for sure.
Alicia Thompson here next to me taught me that it's really helpful to make a writing journal as you are writing to reflect on, you know, like I wrote 500 words today and I all felt like shit, or, you know, or however you're feeling, but that you can give yourself fun stickers to put in your journal when you hit writing counts. So I now am like really emotionally attached to my stickers.
Yeah, I swear by stickers. I get different themed ones for every project. I think about it very hard, like what stickers I need. It's a very big deal to me. And yeah, and what's nice is after, if you've done a few projects, if you have your past notebooks, you can go back and you can be like, oh, I felt this way at 43,000 words exactly last book. So it turns out that's just where I have a crisis. So it's good to know.
So I'm an indie author, so I don't have a contract deadline. I have my own made-up deadlines. For me, it's mostly the characters will shut up until their story is done, and then they're done with me, and I still have to go through and edit.
I gift myself a tattoo every time I meet a deadline.
Goals.
This sounds like a craft question from another writer. Yeah?
I'm gonna be real honest. My daughter asked this question yesterday and was too nervous to say anything to the office. So I'm gonna call her out now.
Future writer. Thanks, Mom. Future writer. If you were a writer, I was gonna say one thing that has worked for me, other than that, like getting paid, but also I have the next term is gonna start, and I'm a college professor, so I have to stop. But starting a new project and working on something else, and then realizing you missed the other project and finally getting back to it and finishing it. Sometimes that works for me too.
Avoidance is always a good inspiration.
That's what I've been doing all weekend with my homework, so. Next question, what are your favorite tropes to write versus read?
I love an enemies to lovers. I mean, the tension, the banter, that's the best part.
That's a pretty quick answer. For me, I love forced proximity and marriages of convenience.
Marriage of convenience.
Can I just take a survey? Am I the only person who likes age gap?
No, I love age gap.
Age gap.
Doesn't matter. Age gap. Okay, so 7? Okay. You guys,
Yes.
you're gonna buy the next one? Okay, that's 7.
Caveat to the age gap, they've gotta be legal, obviously. Like,
Oh,
and I'm not talking like she's 18 and he's 45. No, I need her to be like at least 25-ish.
I honestly do not have a favorite trope. I will read any trope as long as it's done well, even ones that a lot of people don't like. For writing, I would say the strong female character who has the trauma.
I really like writing second chance romances because I like watching them fall in love more than once. And usually that second time they're, have to overcome whatever separated them in the first place. So you can really do a lot of juicy digging into their emotions and what kept them apart and what happened in the interim. So I really enjoy that. And I really enjoy reading the wallflower and the rake trope. Because there's just that moment where the rake falls, head over heels, and I live for that. I love that. Especially if he's like really like Devil in Winter, where he's like a real sarcastic bastard, and she plays him. I love it.
My favorite tropes both to read and write are estranged marriage and fake dating.
I love reading A Marriage of Convenience anytime. I like to write, which I don't know if this is technically a trope, but anyone who's terrified of being in love. Yeah. Anyone who finds it terrifying and excruciating.
Do you want to hand that mic back and we can pass this on?
Oh, yeah.
The same bed, because I work out my unresolved adolescent fantasies.
For a trope I love to read but don't like to write is like fake dating or Marriage of Convenience world. So fun to read. I just don't think I have ideas for it. And I also really love writing Only One Bed. But I really like kind of right person, right time later, but not like true second chance.
Somebody in the audience asked, what's a trope? So maybe explain it, not me, but somebody else.
Now I'm like, what's a trope? How do you actually define a trope?
What are words? Tropes are going to be, it's like a theme that you see throughout a book. So we keep saying things like marriage of convenience. They're getting married because it's convenient. They're going to make a lot of money. If it's a historical or something like that, they're going to get higher station. You've got only one bed. They go to a hotel and all the rooms are booked and there's only one room and it has one bed. So a trope is going to be kind of a micro theme within, especially in a romance novel.
It's like a plot device.
Yeah, it's a plot device.
Helps keep the story moving.
It's a figure. It's a figure, technically from tropology, it means like an act that happens. So it's like a figure of, it's like a figure of speech, but it's a figure of plot, it's a thing. It's not just a theme, but it's a pivot, it's a twist, it's a device, but you can have multiple tropes in one romance, and that's something a lot of us, I think, try to do. You can have enemies to lovers, forced proximity, fake dating, age gap. Are you writing that book because we want it? There should be a contest where it's like how many
Let's do that, right?
How many tropes can you do in romance?
Have you ever read a book that you feel like they just spun a trope wheel and then they're like, yeah! And then you're like, wait, there's only one carriage and what is happening right now? It's just like you're picking tropes out constantly. I've read a few of those where I'm like, who spun the wheel?
I see no problem with that. Vanessa, and did you want to list your favorite to read and write?
Only 110.
The complicated woman, for sure, and especially if she's got a heart of gold. Yeah, at the end of the day.
You do all the tropes, it's fine. I haven't written it yet, but I would love to write fake dating, because just like, you know when you're dating somebody and then all your friends make you kiss in front of them so that you prove that you're really dating them? Like, that happens to everyone, and it's just a moment, and then it's real, it feels real. Yeah, it's happened to all of us.
I hate amnesia.
I hate amnesia. I hate secret babies. Until somebody told me that Miss Beverly wrote a secret baby. And I was like, no, I didn't. They said, yes, you did. Destiny's Surrender. That's a secret baby. But she didn't know who the dad was, so it's not a secret baby.
Next question.
Let's do it.
This one is directed specifically to Miss Bev, and I think it kind of stems off of what she just said. She forgot she wrote a secret baby that's not a secret baby, but is a secret baby, kind of.
There is a book called Pregnesia.
There is a book called Pregnesia. I saw it, it was wild. Miss Bev, you have so many books with so many characters. The question is, how do you keep track of all of your characters and their families through your works?
Good question. Because I dropped a whole lot of people. I'm like, oh God, that's not his name. Basically, what I did was I contracted with Lily, who does Bibles, because in the second Blessings book, see, I can't even remember his name. Anyway, he had the wrong name in the second book. And the readers were like, who the fuck is this? So, it was a good thing that I knew Bree and Donna, because they recommended, yeah, but you gotta use it. So I still stumble sometimes because I don't use it. It's like Bible amnesia.
All right, the next one is for everyone. As readers, we nerd out over meeting the authors we love. Who are the authors that you nerd out over when you meet them?
I just did it to Miss Bev like 2 hours ago.
Everyone we met this weekend has been like, Miss Bev is here.
I honestly feel like it's most people I've met. I'll say one that's an easy one. I got asked to do an event with Rachel and Solomon last summer before my book came out, and I had read her book prior to writing my book. So that was this like real weird dissonance, because once you become an author, it's like you're slightly aware that they're kind of your colleagues, but before you are, you're like, no, that's a famous person.
Yeah, I am such a huge super fan of Stephen Rowley, who wrote The Guncle, and just came out with Celebrants. And I recently did a book festival with him, and we went out karaokeing, and now he's my bestie.
So I'm a librarian, so in my day job, so I meet a lot of authors, and I tend to be a cool person. I mean, I'm not a cool person ever, but I tend to maintain a facade around authors. But I met Jacqueline Carey, who wrote the Kashiel books, and I was not normal.
There's one author I can think that if I got to meet her, I would probably fangirl so hard, and it's Lisa Kleypas. Just adore her. I mean, obviously I met Miss Bev too, and I've had the pleasure to meet her. So it would be Miss Bev, like, got to meet, but I have yet to meet Lisa Kleypas, and yeah, just thinking about it, my heart starts racing.
I used to have a TV show in North Carolina. It was an author interview TV show we ran for 9 years. And so I constantly had to center myself and not be nervous when I was meeting these famous authors at that time. Probably the one that made the most positive impression on me out of literally hundreds of authors that I met was Kate DiCamillo. And she was just a heart of gold, and there's a wonderful story. She came into the TV studio, and this says something about her character that I've always remembered. She went around and met everyone in the TV studio. Custodians, everybody behind the scenes, whereas a lot of authors just come in, they're there to do their thing, they want to talk, they want to promote their book, but she made a point to meet everybody at that TV studio. It was a huge impression on me. I still haven't met Stephen King, and I totally want to meet him before he passes, for sure.
Yeah, whoever wants to go next. Sorry.
This is a very niche answer, but I grew up reading these Harlequin Presents romance novels by Allison Fraser. They were in like the late 80s, early 90s, and she was just my favorite. When one of hers dropped, I was like, a new Allison book is in the mailbox. I'm reading it right away. I was way too young to be reading it. And I'm kind of like recently obsessed with like finding her, because I'm sure that's a pending, and she hasn't written in like decades, and I just want to find her and in a very chill way tell her how much her books have been to me, and like, you know, that I still think about them. I think about them constantly. So that's my very chill answer.
I mentioned in the last panel, Melissa Phoebos, whose work I really adore, who's not a romance writer, unless you want to talk about romances that are, you know, deadly, basically, to your psyche. But I really admire her work, and I wrote her a letter at some point when her craft book Bodywork came out, and just had, you know, I don't write letters usually to other authors, but I was so moved by it that I wrote this long letter declaring my adoration for all that she was, had written, and would write. And then after that, I applied to go to be in a writing workshop that she was teaching, and then I got into it.
Oh no.
And then I was there in front of her. She was very cool. Like, she didn't ever acknowledge during the workshop that she got the letter. And I spent the whole time being like, are we dealing with the letter, or are we? And then I got home, and she was like, oh, this is from you. So I fangirled for 10 days. So.
For me, I came to reading romance and writing romance very late. And so I'd read all these fantastic authors, and then when I started writing, I started meeting Sarah McLean and Sophie Jordan and Madeline Hunter. She judged me in a chapter contest, and I thought I was gonna die when I met her in person. You know, she gave me critiques, and so it's really all the current authors who I'm actually older than in most cases, and Julia Quinn, and they were lovely when I met them, and of course people who break barriers and really mean something and bring something new to the industry, like of course Ms. Bev does.
So a few years ago, I was at the Baltimore Book Festival, and I'm walking around outside, and there's Alicia Wright standing outside a tent by herself. And my heart starts pounding, and I go like, oh my God, I have to say something, I have to go up to her. So I go up to her, and I say, I just want to tell you that I really love your books. And then I go blank. I go completely blank, and I say, and your hair is really pretty, okay.
Okay, slight revision. I completely blanked on the fact that I met Ray Bradbury at Comic-Con many years ago, and I was so awkward when I went up to him. He was in a wheelchair. It was about a year or two before he passed. And I was there with some friends. I was like, I gotta get a photograph with Ray Bradbury. And my heart was pounding, I remember. And I remember Veronica taking a picture of that. I must have looked very strange standing next to him in his wheelchair. Yeah, that's the big one, I think.
I met Nisha Sharma last month, like on pure accident. we were at the same like event in this like small town in Pennsylvania that I'd never even heard of, and we had dinner together at the Bonefish Grill, and it was fantastic.
Lydia, was it you that said you met Alicia Rye? Okay, quick aside, I gotta say it because it's pretty funny. I got to moderate online Alicia Rye and Rebecca Weatherspoon. My internet was garbage, so there was like this insane lag, and I thought, okay, I've riled my cat up, he'll go to sleep. He turned the lights off. The panel went dark. It's just me, like, lit by my laptop. And Alicia goes, oh, I think you turned the lights off? And I'm sitting there panicking, like, do I get up, do I not, what do I do? I did end up with the lag, was able to like run, turn the lights back on. So telling her her hair is pretty is probably better than my cat turning a light off. All right, next question. I think everyone is in agreement about how the increasing diversity in romance, queer love, disabled love, asexual love, fat love, etc., is nothing but good when done well. What is an area you think we still need to grow in?
Not to be a downer, but it can seem like it's going really well, and the reality is the vast majority is still cis-het white people, able-bodied, young, but like accomplished enough, you know. So I think we really still just need more of all of it.
So we had this discussion at dinner. I would like to see more male-male romance being written by queer men, for sure.
I agree. Everything they said, but also class diversity. We need more people in romance novels who are not classed people. So yeah, poor people fall in love too.
So I do think that there is a thing that happens where like, and they've done studies where when women talk more than like 25% of the time, men perceive that they have been talking more than 50% of the time. And now that there are like some diverse romance novels, it feels like it's right, but it's not, there's not anywhere near an equity of it. I would love to see more trans femme voices writing trans femme novels. And also like in historical romance, which I don't write, but I read a ton of, I would really love to see things outside of England and outside of the Regency picking back up. That would be incredible. The world was around for a really long time. A lot of people were falling in love.
I agree. Obviously, I write historical romance, so I completely agree. But I will say that there's a lot of historical romance authors who are pivoting to other genres because readership is down right now. And so it's really hard because we want to tell diverse stories and explore different areas of the world, and we need the numbers to do that. I will say, we're talking about diversity and what we'd like to see. I think in order to see any of these things, we need more diversity on the other side. In publishing houses, we need more diverse editors, more diverse copy editors, more diverse acquiring, like all of the agents, all of the things. If we're going to make any real headway, all of publishing needs to see an increase of diversity. And unfortunately, I think there's been layoffs that have happened recently in a lot of publishing houses, getting rid of DEI areas and whatnot. So that's discouraging.
I love the mental health representation and the neurodiversity representation that I've been seeing, especially in some indie books that I've been picking up lately.
Yeah, I just wanted to second what was said at the beginning, that it may seem, I mean, first of all, we don't all want there to be more diversity in romance. I think, I appreciate the question or the comment, but we don't. I mean, I think we all kind of know that, but those of us who do, all the things, certainly more trans representation, poly representation, I think, is another one. Class, I totally agree with that. And in historical, I totally, yeah, very much agree with that. There are so many other periods that could be explored. There were people of all sorts of ethnicities, races, sexualities in every period that has existed. And so I think it's all fair game. But and I will just quote, since I'm doing stats at this place, I guess. I will just re-quote the stat from PEN America that between 1950 and 2018, 95% of the books published by the top 5 were by white authors. And so whatever you feel, not you, but whatever one feels is happening, it's just barely happening. And that's the reality. 72%, I think, of the publishing industry, according to Lyon, is white right now. So that's the reality that we're publishing under. And not everybody wants us to keep doing what we're doing.
You know, and in dealing with that reality, I would like to see editorial change. You know, we need more people of varying identities and all of that in editorial. I told you the story about the copy editor who looked at a sentence that I had written and had the download in it, the word download. And she wrote bad grammar. Wait for it. Bad grammar. You should say, put it on the low shelf. How about I not say that? So I wrote in the margins, you know, reason 657, we need more diversity in publishing. What? So, yeah.
Picking up on what Ms. Bev said, I write Arab characters, Arab Anglo characters, Arab American characters, and I think I'm the only one in historical doing that. And I think it's a group that faces so much prejudice and stereotypes. I'd love to see more of that. I mean, just recently the New York Times published an op-ed comparing Arabs to animals, and that went through all the editorial process. And the Wall Street Journal called Dearborn, Michigan, which has a large Arab American population, the jihad capital of the world. So, yeah. But speaking of editing notes, everybody assumes if you're Arab, you're Muslim, which I am, but half of the Arab Americans in America are actually Christian, which I think a lot of people don't know. So I don't really do religion in my historicals, but my Anglo-Arab character talked about wearing her Sunday best. And the copy editor said, if she's Muslim, why would it be her Sunday best? So that's why we need more diversity.
So for me, as a chronically young person, I really appreciate reading about heroes and heroines, or just characters in general, or just too tired. You're too tired to run around. They don't have spoons.
Yeah, I mean, really seconding everything that everybody has said. And also the books that are already out, I'd love to see them just get more love, and the authors who are writing those books to get more attention and more love. I think at this point in 2024, if you're writing like a list, and your list is all white authors, or they're all straight romances, I mean, that's a problem, because there's a lot of books out there, and there's a lot of really good books written by, you know, all kinds of different people, about all different kinds of people.
Yeah, again, not to beat a dead horse, but yeah, I think in terms of this, like, change really has to come from the top in publishing, not just with editing, but where decisions are made about marketing dollars. It seems more and more where publishing is going is just following what Book Talk is already selling, and there's lots of data about who gets the algorithms on Book Talk and other places, so something needs to be done about that.
Yeah, it's up to everybody in here really to decide. You're all gonna buy some books after this, right? Everybody's gonna buy a book. So buy books from underrepresented voices. That's the start. And then review those books. Don't just buy them and read them and love them. We need reviews as well. We need to hear that love, right? Of course, I'd like to see a few more men that are comfortable writing love stories. It's complicated to try and write a love story from a male perspective. And I've been on a lot of panels over the last 15 or 20 years, and I'm often one. Yeah. So.
I like to see more support for BIPOC authors, not just in Black History Month or Latinx History Month or Asian Pacific American History Month. Why not all year round? When you have all your focus just on this one month. It's almost like, okay, I did my duty, I read this book during this month, and now I'm good for the year, because I read the Latinx book during Latinx History Month. But why not read those books year round? Why not support those books year round? And so we really need the same support from readers and from publishers all the time, not just because we're trying to check our box that we did our good deed for that particular Heritage Month.
So we're going to open it up to audience questions. If you have a question, raise your hand. Shout it as loud as you can so the room can hear it, because I'm not running up and down stairs. I've done enough of that today.
So many stairs.
I swear to God, the bookstore stairs almost murdered me on the way over here. So we'll start with.
So I want to, my first question is probably should be this one. Is it one of the things as a Native reader, romance reader, I very much appreciate, like I told Ms. Bev yesterday, the standard that she sets for Native representation in her book and Helena, to write Door. Also having that in contemporary books, because we existed back then, we still exist now, and I think that, you know, it's one of those things that I want to keep pushing for in anybody. And I always tell people, you know, it's like if you don't have a Native person as a friend, or you don't know a Native person, then you're probably not paying attention, because we're literally everywhere. And I think that for me, that's the thing that I want to kind of keep pushing for. But what I wanted to know is sort of when you are looking at creating all of your side characters and the different people and the love interests and things like that, like how do you kind of keep those sort of different identities and making that diversity and inclusion in mind?
I have a pretty big central friend group in my first novel, and it's made up of like 2 different hues of color. One is black and biracial black, one is Korean biracial. There's a monoracial black man and an Irish immigrant. And to me, I wrote like that because that's what my actual friend groups are like. And keeping all those identities in mind, like I try to talk to people in my life who have identities that I don't share so that I can try to like do my best. I try to do research. But to be honest, like if you are consuming the most diverse media you can and you're living in a like big city where you have access to people, like it should just kind of be something that can come as a reflection, but still you should think about it and talk to somebody and all of that. And you also like, what Vanessa was saying, not everybody wants you to do that. Like I have had people tag me in things saying like it was trying too hard to be diverse. So also just mentally preparing yourself for some people to say pretty wild stuff in response to that is just as important as like the craft itself.
Yeah, I just want to say it's not hard to create a diverse cast of side characters. Like as a white person, I only feel comfortable writing from the perspective of white people. But when it comes to side characters, like whenever I read a book where there's literally no people of color or no queer people, like that person's just being lazy and not reflecting the real world, like you said, Rachel. Like it shouldn't be hard to reflect the real world in your side characters.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I think about a lot, and we're in the process of adapting the Jordan novel into film. And as someone who's done this before, it's not my first rodeo, I'm very cognizant of the team that I'm building around me in filmmaking, because filmmaking is a team, being diverse. So we have an African-American screenwriter who's London-based. We have an African-American lead actress for this who's a producer. I challenged myself to go to the film festivals where I was the minority so that I could help build that team to represent those voices in filmmaking in a big way. So I think we have to challenge ourselves. We have to be brave about that and say, we want to make that happen and put ourselves out there. I think the question that I have is about subject position when we're writing those stories ourselves. I don't know how comfortable I would feel writing from a white subject position, a white male subject position, an indigenous point of view. I would need to. Right, but I have very good friends, right, in Arizona that I have talked to about, collaborating on projects and those sorts of things.
That I appreciate, definitely as a white person, especially a white male, using privilege appropriately to actually, boost people of color, or from other minority groups.
Right, any other answers before we go to the next question?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the key, it's the question in a way, I think who gets to write about what, who should write about what do you need to write a character who's not like you? Those are the questions, and I think, I don't know that I don't feel perfect about it so far in my books. I wrote a South Asian character, Anglo-British character named María in Lush Lives, who I really enjoyed writing. I based that character on, in some ways, like, I'm a professor. I have actually a lot of students, Indian students who are women, really strong women, and I talked to them about some of the moves that the character was making, etc. But I mean, even then, it's a small sample, right? And it's not like anybody. I mean, I hate being asked to represent who I am in any form of identity. But I think one thing that, I mean, this is just a reflection, I guess. One thing that's been interesting to me about writing diverse characters, a diverse range of characters, is that often the people of color have been some of the nastiest respondents to that, actually. I think one thing that doesn't get talked about a lot, but I think there's so little representation of people of color sometimes that when you see someone who's close to what you are, you want it to ring true, and if it doesn't, people seem very eager to say that's not right, that's not how it is as what I am, and I understand that frustration, but I think it's sort of important to acknowledge that it does come from all sides, at least in my experience, and it's hard to get it right in that way. Maybe impossible.
Next question?
Right here.
Speaking both about tropes and you were talking about book talk and bookstagram earlier, with kind of the way the lay of the land is now, do you feel in your writing process or in publishing or the marketing of it that you feel pushed towards certain tropes or the need to shift your story towards certain tropes or really towards tropes in general for marketability, and has it affected your process at all, or do you find that's kind of changed romance in general?
I'll just say really briefly that in my second book that the cover just came out. At first there was a love triangle in it, and my editor was like, take this out. So she's like, people do not like love triangles, which I didn't know. So they just feel they always end up feeling very bad about one of the two people. So.
Yeah, actually I think that's a good point. The only way any of that will ever sway me is if like my agent or my editor is coming to me with like a trade secret and telling me that this thing is a bad idea. I cannot get like too caught up in what tropes are popular. Like a trope is popular today, and in 3 weeks there will be something, do you know what I mean? And it's gonna take longer than that for my book to come out. So it's gotta ring true to the story I'm writing, or else I won't do it.
There's also this really weird thing that happens where when you're writing something, whatever you're writing, you will suddenly see every single negative thing that anybody's ever said about it. Like, so the minute you start writing whatever the trope is, it's like literally you pull up your social media and it's nothing but, I hate that trope, I can't stand it. And I don't know, it just happens. You have to be prepared for that.
I don't think it's affected my process at all, but I know a lot of people who've had this discussion, like this is something authors talk to each other about a lot. It's definitely affected how books are marketed. And that can be problematic because like I might just be writing something to write it, and then people might say, oh, it's X trope, and then people have trope expectations. And I didn't say it was that, but then you get reviews that are like, I was told it was X trope.
It also affects which books are bought. like right now, publishing wants to buy romantasy, and that's by white people, and that's pretty much it. And but yeah, going back to what I think Rachel said, it shouldn't affect your actual process because things change so much.
But publishers are super aware of TikTok, that's for sure.
Yes. Yes.
Probably one more question, and then you wanna go to.
So the one more question, and then the authors will be signing directly outside. But if you need to purchase any titles, you'll need to go to the mall bookstore tent, and apparently you need to do it a little quickly.
Go.
So we'll ask this one more question and then finish up.
Up top with Wildcat.
Thank you. Speaking of tropes and like characters, what comes first? Like your guys' plot storyline and then characters, or characters then like plot? Oh wait.
I think we're all different. You know, for some people it's the plot, some people it's the trope, some people it's, so because we all write differently. We all don't write the same way. So if you're an aspiring writer, do you? Don't look to anybody else's example. You write what floats your boat, okay?
And it can depend on the book.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna jump in if I can, just to say, like, I was so excited to do this panel with all of these amazing people, and I think oftentimes people kept saying, like, it's gonna be happy, it's gonna be an upbeat kind of thing, and this is a pretty serious discussion that happened. But I so respect it, and I'm so grateful for that, because it's like you guys are bringing these really important questions, and just because it's romance doesn't mean it has to live in a world of unicorns and glitter, which is good for book covers especially, but I just want to say, like, thank you for being willing to get into it with us. Just speaking for me.
Is that all the answers? Then everybody?
Yeah, I think that's everything.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for coming. Thank you to all of the authors for joining us. This was